It's Dodgers versus Twins, and Shohei Ohtani is on the mound. He's been off to a terrific start this year, but unfortunately a little problem has popped up for him. His longtime catcher Will Smith is on the IL, so instead rookie Dalton Rushing is catching for him. And unfortunately Ohtani doesn't seem to be on the same page with Rushing. Here's a comparison of their stats, and clearly Ohtani feels much more comfortable with the veteran Smith. And that's probably to be expected. It's tough to compete with Smith, but the issues go beyond the stats as well, because Ohtani has a little bit of a trust issue with Rushing, especially with missed ABS challenges. We first saw that 2 weeks ago in this Pirates game. Ohtani wanted to challenge 2 pitches in this crucial at-bat, but Rushing told him no, and then Lau is going to end up hitting this double to knock Ohtani out of the game. The Pirates come back to win. After the game, they asked Ohtani about those missed ABS challenges, and he said this: "I usually let the catchers make that determination, but looking back, I think I could have done a few challenges." And in the first inning of this game, the same thing is going to happen. Ohtani wants to challenge this pitch, but again, Rushing says, no, don't do it. But look, that would have been a strike. So Ohtani wants to be cool. He wants to listen to his catcher, but he's starting to get annoyed. And then later in the inning, Ohtani and Rushing are going to get crossed up on this pitch. So already things are boiling up for Ohtani a little bit as we head out into the second inning. And to start off the second, Ohtani's going to give up this single to Caratini, but then he's going to strike out Royce Lewis. So it's 1 on and 1 out. And next up is Brooks Lee. And the thing about Brooks Lee is that he really struggles versus off-speed and breaking balls. So Rushing says, okay, he struggles with off-speed. Let's start with a splitter. And that is a perfect pitch for strike 1. And it comes back with the fastball for strike 2. So it's an 0-2 count. They go back to the splitter, but that's a bad miss. So now it's a 1-2 count. Rushing says, how about back to that fastball? And that's going to miss outside. So now it's a 2-2 count. Rushing says, okay, let's go back to that splitter, but that's going to be hit up the middle and it gets through for a base hit. And yeah, that was another miss on that splitter. We can see that was not where Ohtani wanted it. Remember, the splitter was off on the previous pitch as well. We know that Lee struggles versus off speed, so I understand what Rushing was doing. But regardless, Ohtani said at this point that he, quote, didn't feel convicted about what was being called. And that's probably because what happens on the next batter here with Tristan Gray. So on the first pitch, remember, Ohtani just missed 2 splitters in a row. Rushing is going to start off by calling for another splitter. And again, Ohtani misses his spot. That one's called a strike. Rushing wanted that low, but it ended up high. 3 misses of the splitter in a row. What's Rushing going to call? He calls for another splitter, and Gray is going to hit that one for a single, so now it's bases loaded. And in Rushing's defense, Tristan Gray is a batter who struggles versus off speed, so it does make sense on paper to throw a splitter there. But also, that's 4 subpar splitters in a row without an adjustment, so Ohtani's like, dude, what are we doing here? So now Ohtani's getting a little frustrated. It's bases loaded, 1 out. Ryan Kreidler is up, and as Rushing goes to call the first pitch on his pitch comm, he wants to call for a breaking ball, but he accidentally presses 2 buttons on the pitch comm. He's going to press breaking ball and fastball, and unfortunately Ohtani just hears fastball, so that pitch is going to get by Rushing. It goes to the backstop. The run comes home to score. The other 2 runners move up, and yeah, that's exactly what happened. We can see Rushing was set up for a breaking ball, but Ohtani heard fastball, and man, did he throw a fastball there. That one was 101.7, which is no joke, the fastest pitch of Ohtani's entire career. So yeah, I think Ohtani's a little bit mad. And yeah, they just got mixed up. And remember that the same thing happened earlier in the game. This is the second time they've gotten mixed up on pitches. This time the run comes home to score. And we can see Ohtani is pissed here. So pitching coach Mark Pryor says, all right, we need to calm this down. He's going to go out for a quick chat. They have a nice conversation. All right, we're all good. Let's settle down. Here we go. Okay, here we go. 1-0 count. And that is a perfect pitch for a strike. Great pitch right after the mound visit. We are so back. And the next pitch is low for a ball, but Ohtani's challenging. And look at Rushing. He says, no, don't challenge. That's low. But here we go. It's going to be a challenge. And Ohtani's right. Oh my goodness. This is a wild inning. Again, it looks like Rushing was almost expecting a different pitch there. So we can see his framing was off. Ohtani's like, I know that's a strike. And look how angrily he taps his head. That's crazy. Remember, Ohtani felt like Rushing has already cost him 3 challenges lately. 1 earlier in this game. So he's not waiting around. Rushing is convinced that one's low, but it's in there for a strike. And look at Ohtani's reaction after. It's just a simple nod to Rushing. He's just like, yep, I'm Shohei Ohtani. Don't forget it. So that one's in there for a strike, but Kreidler is going to end up singling here. And the 2 runners that moved up on the pass ball are going to come home to score. So it's 3-1 Twins. Ohtani is going to strike out Larnach to end the inning, and after that pitch, Ohtani's going to walk into the dugout and into the tunnel, and Rushing is going to sheepishly follow him there. And then in the tunnel, Ohtani's going to inform Rushing that he's taking over pitch calling from this point on. Check out Ohtani's quote after the game. He said, quote, "There's really a couple ways of communicating. One is by words, but the other way is by example and just taking charge and showing Rush what kind of pitching style I'm capable of." That is a badass quote. And as we can see, after their conversation, Shohei goes right over and installs PitchCom on his sleeve. So he is very much the captain now. And what happens to Rushing after that conversation? Well, as soon as they come back from the tunnel, Freddie Freeman's going to go right up to him and give him a nice talk. Rushing's just taking it in. And then we can see pitching coach Mark Pryor comes over to talk to him. And then eventually manager Dave Roberts is going to come over and put his arm around him. And for his part, Rushing said he really felt terrible about the whole inning. Here's what he said after the game.
I didn't do a great job. Start to finish. It was pretty embarrassing. Thankfully, he's as good as he is, and he could take control of a game. Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing.
Now, you're probably getting ready to pile on Rushing in the comments, and I think that's mostly deserved, but I will say that I think Rushing is right on one thing. I do think that he was correct in the first inning here to wave off a challenge. It was the first inning, nobody on, and a 1-0 count. Objectively, that is a really low leverage situation to challenge in, so while the pitch did catch the zone, I think it's smart to not risk the challenge there. But in the second inning, I'm definitely with Ohtani. It was 2 on in a 1-1 count. With both challenges remaining, that is definitely a great time to challenge. So definitely a learning experience for Rushing. And the last thing you're wondering is, how does the rest of the start go for Ohtani with him calling his own pitches? Well, we can see he goes back out there for the third. We can see him calling his own pitches, and that third inning goes pretty well. Bam, 101 on the fastball. Bam, gets him with the sweeper, and then bam, gets him with the splitter. Ohtani strikes out the side, and in total, he's going to retire 10 of the next 12 batters he faced. And oh, by the way, Ohtani's fastball averaged 99.8 on the day, which is the fastest average fastball velocity he's ever had in his career. So yeah, just definitely a very interesting situation for the Dodgers. Rushing is definitely going to have to adjust, because Shohei should never stop being Shohei.